Welcome to the Heroic Investing Show. As first responders, we risk our lives every day. Our financial security is under attack. Our pensions are in a state of emergency. A single on-duty incident can alter or erase our earning potential instantly and forever. We are the heroes of society. We are self-reliant and we need to take care of our own financial future. The Heroic Investing Show is our toolkit of business and investing tactics on our mission to financial freedom.
Welcome to the Heroic Investing Show, a podcast for first responders, members of the military, veterans, and anyone looking to improve their financial future and gain some freedom with their time. We teach America's heroes how to build passive income, build their startup business, and safely grow wealth through real estate and other alternative investments. We help current and prior first responders put protections, systems, and a team in place to help them build a life where they can focus on their passion, that service or product that they are uniquely gifted to share with others, making the world a better place for all of us. My name is Gary Pinkerton, and I co-host this show with Jason Hartman. This is Heroic Investing, episode 187. Today we're turning the tables yet again. If you remember back on episode 178, I interviewed Mike Foster. Mike is a naval officer, recently retired, and now working full-time as a real estate investor, as an educator, and as a podcast host on Active Duty Passive Income podcast. What an awesome organization. I've interviewed most of the members of that group. Really, really fortunate to have come across them, having been introduced by a good friend. You've heard them also on Jason's Creating Wealth show, and I think you're gaining great value from these guys. If you haven't gone over to their podcast and to their website and started to learn from their amazing education, then please do so. Love these guys. Many of them are close friends already of mine. So I asked Mike to be on my show, and I reciprocated by being on his show. I thought we had a great conversation about how you can use life insurance to grow wealth in real estate, and so I thought I'd share that with you here. Mike's podcast from Active Duty Passive Income. Enjoy.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Active Duty Passive Income podcast. All right, I am so excited to have Gary here. He is an amazing guy. Gary Pinkerton, not only is he a Naval Academy grad, but he is also a real estate investor, and he's got an amazing tool that he is going to share with you guys today. Gary, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, and I graduated, I think it was like a year before you, right? 1991, wasn't that about? That was pretty close.
Right, close enough.
I'm really looking forward to being on your show. It's a lot more fun sitting in this seat. Actually, I enjoy being host, but man, it's more fun sitting on this side.
Oh, man, I believe it. And for those of you who don't know, Gary just had me on his show, the Heroic Investing podcast, and you definitely need to go check it out. There will be links to that in the show notes page as well. But, thank you so much for what you do, Gary, for giving back and really, communicating the message of real estate investing with the folks out there that need it the most, I think. Right?
Absolutely.
The underserved community. So we are doing it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, it's hard to be in the military. I mean, you're feeling the same thing. I mean, you're obviously have dedicated your life solely to doing that. And, Active Duty Passive Income, I've interviewed everyone almost who is a member of your amazing team. And, and obviously you guys are very devoted to that, but it's really hard for any of us who have retired or have served in any manner to not want to, have pull at your heartstrings when things like veterans opportunities come up to be able to help other people out or active duty. I can remember, when we would go downtown New York City, we used to do the Army Navy game at Giant Stadium before they tore down the old stadium. And that's when they were building Lincoln Financial, I guess, in Philly.
Right.
And we would go downtown, and I mean, we would get absolutely plastered and not pay a penny for anything, and free meals and everything. Like especially if you came across a place where there were other, where there were veterans or people who had served, and when the Greatest Generation were the people lining the bars at the time, that wasn't hard to do. So we all want to give back, and podcast is a great way to do it. So. I'm really enjoying myself, really. I was just kind of kidding. I love every time I get an opportunity to talk with people, veterans, first responders, whatever. It's a good time.
Absolutely. It really is. And you do an amazing job at it. So make sure you guys go and check out this podcast because it is,
thanks.
It is impressive. So Gary, can you tell us a little bit about your background, maybe how your naval career a little bit, and then how you got started in real estate investing?
Yeah, some people join the Navy or go to the Naval Academy having it been a lifelong dream, and that was just not me. I grew up in the Midwest on a farm. I really loved being an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that word meant back then. I really loved though the time that I had on the farm with my dad. Building little businesses, and we were like a total. We would start a business on a moment's notice because there was a need out in the community, and we thought we could get paid for it. And so we did all kinds of stuff on that farm. We had welders and we had, all kinds of equipment. So it wasn't hard to pretty much manufacture anything the community needed. And we would do that. And I can just remember, learning the aspects of, man, if I spend time doing this, or I spend some intellectual property and create something new that people value, I get paid for it. So I kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit. There's this time when I was, before I get to this time, let's go to why did I go to the Naval Academy? So this was the late '80s, and we were just, our farm was getting swamped and just getting destroyed by high interest rates. And so basically we got foreclosed on and lost the farm, and we did get to sell it technically on our way out the door. But it was, this is a longer story that I'll tell everyone one day, but I knew that there was no future in farming at the time, not with the interest rates the way they were. I loved the community, but there were just no jobs in Illinois either, or at least where I was in Southern Illinois. So I had to get out of the state, and I had no money. And so I got a chance to go to University of Illinois, and I got a chance to go to the Naval Academy, and a couple of really good guidance counselors said, well, kid, you don't know what the heck you want to do other than be an engineer. So why don't you go to the Naval Academy? Maybe something, being halfway across the country will get you there. So I got on the second airplane I'd ever been on, went to the Naval Academy, and, and I kind of liked it, but I really worked my tail off. And then in the end, I, got an opportunity to be a Marine officer and to go submarine force, which seemed completely opposite. But to me, wow. I couldn't decide between the two because it was all about camaraderie, small, like having your own little company or unit, and everyone knowing each other and being family. And I couldn't decide. So I went to this interview in DC and ended up becoming a submariner. They chose for me. And so I did 26 years there. I had, the incredible honor on my fourth ship to command the USS Tucson and have my own crew. And we just had a great time. And in the end, I realized that my future after this was maybe a squadron of submarines, maybe, being an admiral one day, but it was a lot of desk jobs and telling people what to do on their ship. And I just didn't feel like I could go back there. And it also lit this fire of entrepreneurship inside me that I just wasn't going to come back from. So I loved the Navy. I loved my time. Even my time in the Pentagon on the Joint Staff was just incredibly rewarding, mainly because of the people that I met there. My time at the Naval Academy, like I fought to try to get to two things in my career, to San Diego, California, and to the Naval Academy. And they said no repeatedly. And then near the end of my career, I spent 3 of my last 5 years at the Naval Academy and the other 2 at the Pentagon. But that following 2.5 tremendous years in command of Tucson, those are like 8 amazing years. But I knew it was time for something different. And I got inspired about real estate, mainly because while in command, I went through 2008 and 9, was paying no attention, deployed most of that time, and lost about, 3/4 of my family's wealth. And then a lot of it came back, thankfully, by the time I was leaving command. But it really shook me because it took me back to that time when I kind of made this commitment that my kids were not going to grow up the way I did, even though, looking back on it now, I realized that was probably the best childhood I could possibly have had. But I wasn't going to go through the pain I saw on my parents' face when they couldn't give their kids what they wanted, basically was it. So I said, this isn't going to happen. So I'm going to take more control of my finances. And I studied a lot, and I read Robert Kiyosaki, like most people who are listening to your podcast, and a bunch of other books. And I decided, real estate is something that kind of moves slowly and I can control. And so I was just going to take all my finances and move it out of the markets into real estate. And as I was waiting to close on that first one, I was trying to figure out how can I have less money down on properties, because I saw that as the thing that was eventually going to slow me down and stop me on buying properties every few months. And I came across Patrick Donahoe from Paradigm Life, who's now closest friend and mentor of mine and business partner with me. And he taught me how to first store my family's wealth in life insurance, high cash value life insurance. You might have heard infinite banking, and use that money, specifically borrow against it, use the insurance company's money to fund the down payments on my rental property. So I have Fannie Mae conventional loans on all of our 30 or 20 properties. And I have life insurance policy loans funding the down payment. It's the only way in America after 2008 that Fannie Mae will let you, or that the government will let you fund the down payment with somebody else's money. And so I just kind of propagated that. And after about 3 years of doing it, I realized, man, now I know what I want to do, because it lit that entrepreneurial fire for being interested in personal financial management. I've done a whole lot of self-improvement work here, in the last few years. And what I've realized is that what lights my fire is, things like are in the book Atlas Shrugged. And it's about the America that our founding fathers conceived, a world where there's rule of law, but not an intrusive government beyond that. And so when you think of something, when Bill Gates, thinks of Microsoft, he can have anything in life he wants, because he's adding so much value to the world. I mean, we don't have any trillionaires right now, I don't think, but it's just because no one has created $1 trillion worth of value yet. They will one day.
They will.
So my goal is to help other people put in place passive income, and real estate's a great option for that. It's not the only one, but it's the one I like, because there's a lot of dimensions about that investment with taxes and leverage and all kinds of stuff, right? It's an asset that's not going to run out of style, right? Where everyone's going to have to sleep somewhere, and they're going to pay you for it. They may not need an office building, but they need that. And so there's a lot of things I like about it, but for me, it's helping other people have the courage and have the resources and the knowledge to know how to put in place passive income so they can turn and aim their world at their unique genius. And meaning that whatever they like to do, how about we focus on that, not working at McDonald's because we didn't figure out how to feed the family otherwise. That's what I'm inspired about. Long answer to where I came from.
No, that's awesome. That is amazing. And it is very inspiring, just the fact that you learned and have been able to do so much with it along these roads.
Yeah.
That's impressive, man. So can you tell us a little bit about your first deal? What was that like?
Sure.
You mentioned that you did infinity banking, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So I was listening to podcasts, and there weren't a lot of them around in 2011, not like now. So radio shows and podcasts and reading books while I was deployed. And I came across an opportunity to buy a new construction 4-unit building in Texas. It was not an inexpensive early deal, but again, I was moving money, repositioning money that I'd saved for 20 plus years.
Right.
And so I was waiting on this thing to be built. I kind of did a little bit of due diligence, not a lot, but I did due diligence on, where are people moving and what's the demographics. And I decided that at the time, Texas was a good market. And it certainly was, but it was near the end actually of Texas being a really solid, best option over everyone else.
Right.
And I found San Antonio and it looked good. And these properties were being built down there. So I put one in contract. And so I didn't know anything about rehab. This is brand new construction. Since then, the majority of my properties have been rehab properties. I've done predominantly turnkey stuff because I've went from being very busy in the military to being very busy and inspired with this personal financial wealth strategist role and life insurance role. And so I've never really gotten to where I thought I was going to go, which is personally taking care of my properties and personally finding properties and maybe even personally swinging hammers. I love to do that stuff. But I've kind of, with all this work, decided it's not my unique genius. So I've predominantly worked with turnkey, and nothing's turnkey. That's really a misnomer, right? If it was that easy, everyone would do it. You still got to pay attention. But I've sought out places like active duty passive income before you guys were around, and trying to piece it together myself on lessons learned and surround myself with a community of people who I can ask questions of. But yeah, the first deal was a fairly expensive new construction 4-unit building that I still own. It's the only property that nearly bankrupted me at the beginning. That's, again, a story we won't go down here probably, but it was, the builder was building a product that shouldn't have been building during that period. And he was essentially already bankrupt when I met him. And he was running a little Ponzi scheme of taking deposits from one person to, get another one finished. And then you kind of rolling that forward. Well, my timing was not good. The building did get finished, but he didn't pay for any of the things that were required for the occupancy certification. So again, it's a really long story, but I lost $100,000 in income and damages. And there's this one point where a bunch of college kids got into the building and had some pretty tremendous parties, knocked through walls and stuff. Oh, and there was one code thing that we didn't, I couldn't prove was done. So the city had to come in eventually and knock down half my walls to prove that there was concrete between them. So it was a mess, but almost caused me to quit. But it's also the only property I have today, 8 years later, that actually is what Robert Kiyosaki would call an infinite return. So I've refinanced it last year and pulled out more than I put in as a down payment. And it continues to cash flow tremendously. So, my message for you is if you have a good asset and you just one aspect of it was bad, but the fundamentals are still there, stick with it. I mean, real estate's a long-term investment. But you need to surround yourself with people who have been through similar kinds of Halloween horror stories, if you will. Because, again, I was at one point I was on this island and I was looking around and my wife was not all that happy with my decision for a new investment. And we were about to take the soccer ball and go home and say, all right, well, I don't know what people are talking about with this real estate stuff, but we're out. This didn't work. And I know people have done that and it's really sad, so surround yourself with people who can kind of, buffer your emotional responses to this tenants and toilet stuff.
Right. That is so important. And that's something that we stress a lot, having education is great, right? Knowledge is power, but that action is authority. And you have to surround yourself with a network of individuals that will help you get through, right? Whatever, horror stories, right? Like you said, that you may experience, or even just to bounce advice off of, right? So
yeah. And to stay on your path and to reinforce your path, and to give you ideas about how to get maybe optimized to a little bit better path. Because we're all gonna, as you go through your real estate investing world, you're going to reach stumbling blocks that maybe you can't get over. Maybe you change jobs and you don't have 2 years work history, so you can't get conventional loans, or maybe it's just that there's a major repair due on a building and it's the first time you've experienced that. And you don't know if it's really true that the furnace has got to get replaced. I mean, like, why is this dude telling me that this R22 stuff doesn't work, R114 stuff doesn't work anymore, and I got to spend $800 or $8,000 or whatever to replace this unit? Why don't I just recharge it, right? So, you got to have people that you can call and ask, questions and bounce stuff off of. And the other thing is like what Jim Rohn says, and, it's in a lot of different self-help books, but, be careful who you surround yourself with, right? You're the sum total of the people that you're around. And the reason is because, that whole concept about guard what goes into your head, like what you allow into your mind, because it affects your subconscious and it forces you down passage. You're not even paying attention. You're headed down.
That's right. That's so true. Amazing. Can we do a really quick breakdown on the infinite banking concept?
Of course.
I don't think that is something that our listeners have heard of yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's things we do in our financial lives that, are necessary, and sometimes we're not doing them efficiently. So for example, storing and growing wealth for the family. So there's an aspect of our finances that need to be in a very liquid, safe place. So it's your emergency funds for the family. A lot of times people will say 6 months of income, is held back in case you lose your job, in case you have expenses that aren't covered by someone else in the family. And then if you have properties, there's going to be principal, interest, tax, and insurance required to be held back before they'll give you another loan. For a while, it's 6 months worth of that stuff, but then it kind of goes down when you get more and more properties. But still, it's tens of thousands of dollars that have to be sitting on the sidelines, or they won't give you more loans, right? And it's prudent to do it anyway. So if you're funding these things out of cash and you don't have extra cash sitting around, I mean, you could have to sell your properties at a fire sale if you have to get money and it's not accessible. So property reserves, and if you're running a business reserves. So there's this liquid money that's got to be out there. And where are you going to store it? Like I used to store mine. I used to convince myself that I stored it in my thrift savings plan or my 401k or my IRA or my brokerage account, right? Like I met with a client just yesterday, and he had two accounts that were like safe money and play money. And I was like, tell me about the safe money. He's like, oh, well, that's the money that I would use if I needed. And I'm like, but it's in stocks. Like, how is that? So, it's understanding what's safe and what's not safe. And there's a portion that we will, if we're prudent, we'll keep in a safe place. And you're probably also putting money that you need in the near future in that location. So you're saving up money for the next down payment in a checking account or for your next vacation in a checking account. So there's other money that's liquid for other reasons. And then, most people do that in a savings account or checking account, which doesn't earn much now. I mean, you can get 1.5% in some places, like online bank accounts.
Right.
But life insurance, it turns out, is an asset that enjoys taxation. Life insurance was around before the tax code and has been grandfathered in as essentially a tax-free asset. I mean, I think the CPAs would tell me I have to say it's tax advantaged or tax deferred, but everyone I know has operated tax-free throughout their lives. And you're able to access the value of it in there by borrowing against the policy, pledging it as collateral, or physically withdrawing it, some of it. But it grows on the order of 4 to 5%, maybe tax-free in this zero interest rate world. And in higher interest rate worlds, it has historically done still, 3 or 4% better than a savings account.
Right.
While providing life insurance already factored in there, and privacy and protection and just a lot of benefits. But just thinking about it as a place to store and grow cash, it's far more efficient. I don't downplay the side of life insurance. I had little kids when I started mine. Most of my clients and most of your listeners have little kids. Life insurance is the only thing, permanent whole life insurance is the only thing that will guarantee that what you intend to happen for your family is going to happen. So this vehicle that we're really using and have in place because it's a bank also brings life insurance already, factored into that performance or that cost. And, if I die tomorrow, I know that my family will have a tremendous future. I plan to make that future happen for them, but it's going to happen regardless of whether I'm here or not. And there's not any other vehicle on earth that will do that for you. But again, let's go back to the cash side, right? So you have this place that you store liquid cash, and it's available. There's, $30,000 in there or $300,000, and you find a property you want to purchase, right? So you go through the normal process of getting the conventional loan or commercial loan, however you're buying it. And then it comes to the down payment side. So you can go to the insurance company and you can say, hey, I would like to borrow $20,000 from you guys to be the down payment on this property. And you don't even have to go to that much. You just say, I want to borrow $20,000. Please put it in this account. And they do that. And then you use that money, the money they gave you, to fund the down payment or go on vacation or whatever it's for. You don't have to go through a credit check or any other kind of loan application process. Right. And you don't have to set up when you're going to repay it, because the reason is because they're not looking at the asset you're borrowing it for like the normal bank is. They're not looking at the house and how worthy it is or your paycheck and how worthy that is. They're just looking at the cash that you have in your policy, and that's the collateral in this case. Right. So, there's a lot of math behind why it's better than just putting the down payment inside there. But there's a lot of benefits of doing it. And I think almost everyone I've showed this to and walked through, I got tons of videos that people, I've handed out to people to take a look at. It's pretty compelling, I think, when you go and actually take a look at it.
It is really compelling. And thank you so much for breaking it down for us, because this is something that I know a lot of people are going to be asking about. I mean,
yeah,
you get some questions in our Facebook group, but it's nice to have someone who's invested with it.
Yeah. And I want people to make their decision on their own. I'm not going to be that high pressure person. God's graced me with being a very, very busy person in this world, in this business, in the 4 years I've been doing it. So I'm not going to, beat somebody's door down. But what I will do is provide whatever resources I can. I got a ton of videos. I have, written stuff, however people like to learn. Happily, share my experience, show how my policies perform, how my real estate performs, whatever they want. I mean, I'm very passionate about getting military people, the resources they want, and also put them on a good path.
Put them on a good path. And, it's just information because,
Yeah.
In the military, we're so comfortable with our SGLI, right? And it's term. And as soon as you get out, it's done, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there are certain benefits that you can get if you continue on now. I think they have a veteran one that you can pay into a little bit, and it's not as much coverage, but it's a little bit. And
Yeah.
but at the same time, though, it's terminal, right? And
yeah.
so just understanding the difference between term life insurance and whole life insurance,
Yeah.
the value that you can bring to the table and for your family and for your life with whole life insurance is huge. And as a matter of fact, we might as well talk about that. Do you mind breaking down like the difference between term and whole real quick? Just
Sure.
That might not know.
Yeah, sure. So term insurance, I have a bunch of it. I love this stuff. It's for a completely different purpose. Its purpose is to very inexpensively push risk at the insurance company. It's just like car insurance and health insurance or any other thing where you can, for a very small amount monthly or annually, say, listen, you take this risk. I realize it's a completely unlikely event that I would die at a young age, but it's possible. And if it happens and I'm funding it, my family's bankrupt. If it happens and the insurance company's funding it, well, there was 10,000 other people like me that didn't happen to that are going to continue to pay premiums. And so that's how they stay safe with life insurance, is pooling that risk among hundreds of thousands of people, and they can handle the one-off. When it happens to me and I'm self-insuring, unquote, which means I'm not insured, then that means I'm bankrupt. So it's a good way to push risk to somebody else. And I love term insurance. In fact, I've maximized, how much insurance there's a max amount of insurance you can actually get in life. And it's based on kind of age and income and net worth, but I push it to that level.
All
because
right.
I don't know when, I'm 50. So, I don't know when the next mole I have taken off, they'll be like, oh, you know what? That thing was cancerous, but we got it all. Right. And the insurance company is going to say, well, for 7 more years, we're not going to talk to you. So I love term insurance and I think it's great, but it's not a way to grow wealth. It's like car insurance in that, USAA does have a subscriber savings account and I love it. But in general, car insurance and health insurance, there's not much to show for it at the end of the year once you've paid that premium, right? And the same thing with term insurance. Whole vehicle, it's intended to be permanent, and it's a savings account. It's a savings account with benefits. So it is about growing cash value, and it's something that does not get expensive in old age. It's going to be there for the rest of your life unless you decide to get rid of it. And, there's a lot of people out there that would buy it from you, just like buying your banknote from you, because it's a financial asset. It's got a lot of value and it's a guaranteed product. So, is it likely that I die with my term insurance in place? Gosh, I hope not. And in fact, 99.5% of the time it doesn't happen. Is it likely I'm going to die with my whole life insurance in place? Well, the chance that I was going to die before age 50 was pretty low. The chance that I'm going to die after age 50, pretty high.
Right.
So, it's going to happen if I keep it in place.
Amen. That's so true. Do you mind offering real quick advice for those who might be interested in taking advantage of something like this?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way to grab me is, or to ask me or contact me so that I can, send you videos and my little ebook and that kind of stuff is just to go, it's just my name. So GaryPinkerton.com, and Gary@GaryPinkerton.com is the email. There's a little ebook on that website. It's not the most exciting website in the world, but I'm working on it. And you can find me there. You can, I think you'll probably put in the show notes that email address, or you can happily put my cell phone or anything like that in there. I'm really passionate, as I said probably a dozen times on this show, about helping military however I can. I have a lot of friends that are captains of industry, and if you go back to the mission statement of every service academy out there, talks about leaders in command, citizenship, and government, right? And I really, really believe in America and that the American dream is alive and that our Constitution meant something. And I believe also that we have a duty to lead in industry and government as members of the military. Certainly the officers who went through those academies, and I want to help enable that. There's some statistic out there that there more Marines, served Marines in charge of major companies than any other group out there. And it doesn't surprise me at all. I've worked with a lot of those guys, but I think it's true for most military leaders. And I'm talking about anybody who's like above an E3. We know stuff about leadership and we're driven to help others around us. And so I want to help enable that, right? So I don't want somebody caught in a corporate job that they didn't really fit, but it helped supplement the rest of their retirement income that they gave up when they retired, but they're not inspired about it, right? I want people to be able to launch from their service. They've done enough time, helping others and leaving their family. Let's launch into something that they're inspired to do and that will help others around them, because we all win that way, right? Amen. So I think you asked me about how to contact me, GaryPinkerton.com, but that's what I'm about, and I'll help anyone as much as I can.
No, that's awesome, Gary. And we absolutely know that. That's why we're so excited to have you on the show. And guys, really can't stress it enough. Gary's an amazing guy. You need to go and pick this man's brain, literally, about anything, but seriously about this, because it's an awesome topic. And if it's cool, we'd love to bring you on again another time, just to kind of
talk more detail about it.
Really talk more detail and dissect strategies, because this is something that is a game changer, guys, and it will absolutely help impact your life, your future wealth. This is one of those strategies that you really implement to build generational wealth, right? To affect those lines down the road. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is definitely worth, so it's probably worth a podcast to talk the details of that, but it's absolutely worth one to talk legacy and multi-generational wealth and how to set up our kids for success. Right. I mean, one of the primary reasons I left the military was to help that entrepreneurial fire that I had going, but it was mainly to get back connected with my oldest son, Jake, who is now 17, but at the time, was 12, 13. And, I've been away from him way too long. And I think back to my childhood, I was around my dad 24/7 just by virtue of having to work on the farm. And, so I saw I wasn't doing that. And so I'm very inspired also about family legacy. And there's a lot we can learn from wealthy families who have the time because they've set up their life right, but they take the time to educate their children about finances and, in life. I'm super inspired about that. And I'm working with a buddy actually on a business that we think is going to be able to help the middle-class American families get a long way down that road about trusts and legacy and family, and just give them tools for free to help them out doing that.
Amen. Gary, this has been absolutely amazing. I gotta say, this is one of my favorite podcasts here. This is awesome. But thank you so much again for the wisdom that you've shared. I've got 3 final questions for you, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Bonus round. So, first question: what's your favorite book?
My favorite book. So Atlas Shrugged, because when you get to Galt's Gulch, that to me is the epitome of America, where we ought to be. And that's where I'm trying to take us.
Okay. Atlas Shrugged, right?
Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Yeah. It's a big book. It's not a small undertaking.
Ooh, all right. Well, guys, there will be a link to that in the show notes, assuming they've downloaded enough of those pages and put it in digital print. Awesome. Well, who is your biggest hero and why?
My dad. We've talked about it. Yeah. I mean, personal time between parents and children. There's a picture out there that used to haunt me and now it inspires me. And I don't know exactly what it says, but it's this little kid who's in blue jeans with his hands in his back pockets looking at a lake. And it's, essentially it's like, I'm going to totally butcher this, but the toys that you have, the position you rise to in business, and the amount of money in your bank account will matter not when you pass from this earth, but the difference you've made in a child can make all the difference in the world. So yeah, my dad understood that. Maybe it was just out of need where we were in that world. But yeah, my dad.
Awesome. Outstanding. I believe that. And gotta be an incredible guy.
Yeah.
Question number 3 is, if you could give, you're already giving us a lot of nuggets of wisdom, but if you could break down 3 things to give to those who are just getting started, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So surround yourself with a team of people. I call it, my buddy calls it the C-suite, and that comes from corporations where you have like the chief financial officer, chief investment officer, right. So your people. So in a real estate world, it's going to be your your mortgage guy, I believe your insurance guy or your protections guy, your insurance person, your property insurance person, your CPA, and maybe an attorney, depending on how big your operation is. So surround yourself with a team. The three things, right? So, network, again, we're surrounding with a team, but maybe those people you're not real intimate with, but you will need to be intimate with people who are going in the direction you want to go, not in the direction that you currently are or in a place you're coming from. So even if it just means go to a meetup group in your local town and just talk to people about what you're trying to do to get reinforcement that you're not that weird. Because when you step into a new place in life, you're going to feel weird. And you're going to be weird. You're going to be weird if you're still going to the same water coolers and talking to the same people. I remember walking out when I was at the Naval Academy, and there's this big conversation about mutual funds and 401ks and about getting out of debt and everything. And they asked me what I thought. And I said, the funny thing is I just spent an hour over lunch reading about how to get into more debt. And they all looked at me like I was crazy and didn't join me in the conversation, and kind of ostracized myself with that. But it was actually almost intentional, because I realized if I continue to be in conversations like that, I'm going to stay on that path and I'm going to not leap. And then, so the third thing is work on yourself, because you are your number one best asset. You always will be. We look at, our income in the military and our retirement, and we say those are assets in my life, but they're not. The asset in your life is your ability to be the officer or the enlisted individual that was worthy of paying that money to. Like the fact you didn't get kicked out and that you continued to get promoted, and they accepted your re-enlistment when you did it, is because you added value. And when you went off to get a higher degree, or you got a fitness instructor so you could stay within the requirements, right? That added value and to the one asset that will always be most important in your life, and that's you. So spend money on yourself, improving yourself, and with your family. If I could add a third one, or a fourth one, focus on your family. Spend time with the family. My very close friend and mentor when it comes to family relations says he started a website called 18 Summers, 18summers.com. And it basically means you get 18 summers with your kids. And then after that, you're asking their permission to hang out with them. But you get 18 summers and influence your children, and don't waste them.
Wow. That's real. That is absolutely real. Goodness, man. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Gary. Really appreciate that. It's been amazing and a lot of good notes. I hope all of you guys have been taking notes. And if you haven't, make sure you re-listen to this again and take some notes, because a lot of good information to listen here. And Gary, I can't wait to have you back on the podcast again.
I look forward to it. It's been a tremendous pleasure. It's been very similar to every time that one of you guys from Active Duty Passive Income have come onto my podcast. And it was funny. There was a period of time right before Tim Kelly came on as the first member of the dominoes that have fallen here. And I was at this kind of low point where I couldn't find really good people that were a perfect fit for my podcast. But man, this is just like a really good mating. So I really look forward to future times being on yours and you guys being on ours. I think we can do a lot more together.
Absolutely. Looking so forward to that. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.